this. Let's go. Hey, welcome. I see you. I mean, I can't see you, so don't get creeped out. I can see some stats on where people listen, how often they're listening, when they tune out. I can see those kinds of things. But I can also just see and feel you, whoever you are, good people, the beautiful listeners of this show who are destined to do amazing things in this world. I see you. Okay, so let's start with the greatest of things, our greatness grounding. This is a practice. We do it every day. We are going to go ahead and ground ourselves in our greatness. And my great thing from yesterday, like, we have just been in a season of slow. And, as much and as often as I would try to press past that and act like it wasn't happening, it just continued. And even when I thought oh, we're out of the woods. Yeah, real Taylor Swift moment. Even when I thought that we were flowing past that moment, we would get quickly called back in. And so yesterday, finally, some things that I applied for a very long time ago finally started. Finally, all the stars aligned, literally the star of Bethlehem or baby Jesus or whatever that star was aligned. Okay. And sorry, I don't mean to offend strictly very religious people. I don't know what it was, but I'm here for it. This is really pretty. So amazing. Okay. I didn't mean to offend an entire religion. Here we go. So my great thing was finally something happened, and something that I applied for just kept not happening because of, the freaking world. And this maybe, in other people's minds, not being the right time to start a business, but here we are. And so just everything had been paused, had been slowed. And yesterday, I finally got to pitch my first company, as some of you know, who have been on this journey for a very long time, who started from the beginning. Serial entrepreneur is a term that I went ahead and threw out there. It is in the show notes of the description of this podcast. But in my mind, I just always envisioned doing multiple things, starting multiple things. Listen, my word is empire. That is not a singular thing. And, so that means big. That means multiple things. So last night I got to pitch my first company. I say that like there are going to be more, because there certainly are, and there already is, right? Just even the start of this podcast is something all of its own. So, gosh, that was so exciting. But I think even more exciting was, after I laid down after pitching, and it wasn't really a pitch as much as it was just a start laying out what it would be. Not really a pitch, but starting in a quote cohort to start thinking about what I wanted to do. And I guess after I laid down, the coolest part was just knowing that it aligns perfectly, and that it is a part of my personal brand, and it makes perfect sense for me to champion and start this company. So I'm still speechless on it. I'm so excited for the possibility of starting my first thing, and that's not going to come without hiccups. None of this has. Come on, right? But it is, I think taking the time to fully understand, because the moment that you decide that you want to do something, there is not a lack of options. You could do a trillion different things, right? And so really, it is about knowing exactly what you're trying to build, knowing exactly what you're going after. And for me, that looks like multiple companies, right? That's like kind of the vision. Kind of. That's the vision. Um, but how do you know which one to go after? You know, how do you know which one aligns and which one doesn't? I think it just kind of comes down to that common narrative. We talked about that yesterday. What is it that rings true? And as you keep exploring life, like what problems do you want to solve as you champion and kind of overcome and start up on your own life? You know, as I was coming up through this process the last 3 years, I realized how much of a gift storytelling was to me. And so that wasn't something that I always had in mind. That definitely wasn't something that rung true, but it is something that I could have been impacted by if I had had this common core knowledge that my family, you know, stemmed from greatness or that I was something. And I had kind of just been told real early on that I was nothing, basically, and that my options were vastly limited compared to other people. And, right, what? Boo. What a bad place to start out on. Ugh. And I think about, like, what if just one person? And I did have people, like, I had my family who very much backed me and told me to go do anything. But then I had, you know, a, a stronger, more, these are quotes. You got it? You can't see them if you're not on video, but I am doing air quotes. More successful, that's in quotes, people would tell me that, you know, you really can't, that you should kind of pull down and come out of the clouds. And like, obviously, your parents don't know, or they would be, in quotes, successful. So you can't really trust that. Wrongo. Cringe. That was just wrong, you know? And you can trust that. You can go do that, but I just didn't have enough confidence in the backing of my own story to kind of shut those haters down. Okay. So, my great thing was just like starting something. Starting to conceptualize, starting to say out loud, and that was a bigger thing than anything. Just saying it out loud to someone was such an amazing moment. This is what I want to do. This is my vision for this. This is why I want to do it. This is what I want to solve. Here it is. Yeah, crazy, right? Crazy. But there we are. So go ahead, take time for yourself. Ground yourself in all your greatness. I'm just saying, like, it's effective. It works. It definitely guided me to confidently speak to what I was talking about last night, and also this work, and also all the freaking things. Like, you just owe it to yourself to go ahead and like call yourself on your amazingness. Yeah. You know, I've also been thinking that maybe we need to like balance the good and the bad. So we may start adding in what we added to our own dinner table, which was greatness, epic fails. And maybe start normalizing the balance of the good and the bad, and start recognizing that both things exist and we learn and grow from both. So I am thinking about it. I will go ahead and think some more on that. I haven't quite determined if that's the road that we want to go down. But just know it's a thought. Okay. Let's go ahead and dive in today because like I can't even stop myself from bringing this to you. Okay. So I woke up at, I don't know, probably 2 a.m. just thinking of these thoughts, because oftentimes that's what happens. And anytime that I have that moment, which probably happens, I don't know, most days, I have to like really, really think the thought all the way through. And so kind of what kept coming to me was like, don't let a pause spiral you into stopping. And how often do we do that? And I think it's from this common culture of run, race, rat race, right? Like go as fast as you possibly can, work as hard as you possibly can, find success, find success, find success. And while that mentality will get you somewhere, if you don't know where you're going, it will just get you nowhere faster. Let me go ahead and say that again. If you don't know where you're going, it will just get you there faster. You know how I know? Oh, I don't know, 10 years of doing that, right? And you might be sitting there saying like, oh, 10 years, that's not much. Yeah, it's not. I wasn't willing to go another 20 before I went back and paused and started telling this story, right? Like, I didn't want to. I didn't want to get to 20 more years and then spin so far out of control that I had to, I don't know, right? What are the intense variances of how you deal with something like this? I don't even like to think about them, right? I didn't want to burn out that bad. So we called a pause. It was kind of a slow build pause. But, I started to just pull things back off of my plate and seek silence. At times, that silence was deafening and sort of way too complex and far too silent. At other times, it served me very well. And more than anything, I think I just started to pause but never stop, right? Like this essentially was my life for the last I would say probably for the last year and a half, if not a little bit longer, probably 2 years. Like, when you used to pause VHS tapes, right? So not DVDs. Okay, I'm not talking about that. If you don't know what a VHS tape is, get off this podcast. What are you even doing here? Really? Like, do you really? No, you are welcome here. So I'll explain. Okay, so VHS tapes used to pause and you could push play pause. It was never just pause on its own, right? It was play pause. And I think that that's significant here as we explain what I'm talking about. So you could push play pause and you would push that and the screen would just essentially rapidly move back and forth. And if you're on video, you can see what that kind of looked like, right? It's kind of shaky and wavy and crazy, but like the screen was moving, right? There was movement. It just wasn't in a forward direction, right? It was kind of like movement within a box, but no real forward motion. And then you would just push play and everything would go again, right? But for a while, if you were on pause, you'd just be in this motion place where there's motion, no real movement forward, but motion. And for me, that pause time of just like really assessing my life as a whole looked like a lot of just movement within different boxes. The boxes were maybe changing, right? But the movement forward never really was. Like we were always moving and doing something. I was always moving and doing something, but usually that didn't mean advancement. That wasn't what I was seeking, right? I was just seeking an understanding of self versus seeking what was going to just be the next thing. I knew that the pause was required for just like knowing where I wanted to end up, really sitting with what I truly wanted and with where I wanted to go and not really allowing anything to kind of intercept or take this wavelength just because it didn't look normal. And I will tell you that part is super hard. Here's why. Because you're about to have, anytime that you go on a journey like this where you're like self-development and I want to chase my dreams and I want to do this, the common culture is going to impact you at some point, right? You can't avoid it forever. And the reason the pause is necessary is so that you can fully understand what it is that you want. I knew that I wanted specific things, but I needed to pause for a while to sit with those things, to really understand even how I was going to present them, to really understand how they even flowed and moved with what I wanted and what I was going after, right? And so many times just that common culture is just like run as fast as you can, do as much as you can, and it's okay, right? And I think here's the thing, if you wanted to do something like what I do, right? Because I'm not just sitting here, by the way, but here's the thing. The pause didn't look like we weren't doing anything. It just looked like movement in a place. So we're still moving. We're just kind of halting, right? Because movement too fast in any given direction could lead to just running off the same cliff that we just did easily. Here are the 5 things that I could have done easily the second that I started my job. 1, I could have just started a marketing company. Know enough about it, know enough about digital marketing, know enough about how you start a podcast, how you start a YouTube channel, how you do all those things. Could have started that today, 6 months ago. Second thing, I suppose that I know enough about graphic design to be able to put that together and go and run with that and do that. Third thing, I probably could have started teaching classes just based on the work that I had done so far. That one is not off of the table, but not because I want to become some profound and amazing coach and pitch series all the time, more just because I want to explore stories more and really get more into this death of a dream kind of complexity as it is, and just do more research and learn more about other people's experience with theirs. I could have, I don't know, I could have started website development. I could have done just marketing strategy and different things, right? And so can you. There are probably 5 companies that you could start right now today. And all of those things would have served me very well, and all of those things would have been amazing. But for me personally, this is not going to be your specific experience, right? Some of you are going to have to start like right away, whatever that is, and just start exploring. Now, luckily, I had already started exploring via this podcast, so I had already taken enough steps to do a ton of different things and have experience with that and figure out that maybe that is for me or maybe it isn't for me, right? And you hear that through the narrative of this podcast, where we kind of try things out, where we get real super pumped about it, and then we kind of back down because it didn't serve me. While it was a great opportunity, while I absolutely thought that was going to be the thing, it just wasn't. And Gary Vee was talking about this the other day, which if you don't follow Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know what you're doing here. Follow him. Anyways, he had talked about, like your time and how people protect their time so much. And they'll be like, oh, ooh, I don't know, I'm busy, right? And, he had said, I have time for everything. Like, I do everything, and then I just back out when it's not for me. And I think that's such a beautiful way to just explore things, like just say yes and not yes to everything, right? That's the importance of taking the pause so that you understand what is for you and what isn't, because saying yes to everything, again, will run you off a cliff that you didn't even know you were running towards. But like, slowing down enough so that you understand what no noise is, so that you understand what good noise is, so that you understand what hurtful noise is, and start navigating that. And then start adding back in the yeses. And sometimes, and most of the time, the universe is going to guide you back to that path. But it's okay to pause. Because in those pause moments, you're still moving, right? And we look at like internal work or mental work or self-development as like this negative connotative state where you're like finding yourself and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times like, oh yeah, she just took time off to find herself. Yes, take time to do that. If you have any time, take time to do it. And just remember that that doesn't mean you're not doing something. You're still moving. Even if you're not moving forward, you're still moving, right? And you may just be like skipping boxes, and that may not mean advancement right now, but every new box is a new day, is a new understanding, is a newer person than who you were before. And I've talked to multiple people who took pause moments where they just took time. And it doesn't have to look like a year of time, 6 months of time. You're going to kind of know what you're capable of even committing to it. And B, like what you want to do with it. And how much time is that going to take? How many books are we reading? How much? And like for me, it's been pretty much a 2-year pause. Most of that looked pretty normal. Look like still working a 9 to 5. Look like still, trucking kids around, still going to dance classes, still going to volleyball practice. Like it looked pretty normal for most of it. I would say it really was just about committing to not moving forward. Even when opportunity would strike, even when I was asking for things, I think allowing myself to sit and wait it out, whatever it was. And I definitely said no to a lot of things that a lot of people probably wanted me to say yes to. And it was just about that commitment. It was just about that commitment to self, that commitment to knowing on the other side of this, there would be more than those things that I was saying no to, right? And that's like an insane faith journey, right? Saying no to things that are perfectly aligned, that make sense, but just don't feel right? That you just know the timing's not right or whatever, fill in the blank. Going with your gut or what you're being told is sometimes a hard thing. And by sometimes, I mean pretty much all the time, especially when you've been in a season of no and a season of loss and a season of, for lack of a better word, like just a dry spell of your ability to win. And it's hard to shut those things down when you've been in pause mode for such a long time. But you'll know when you're ready, and you'll be called back in just beautiful ways. And part of my callback, back in, November, I was like, October, like, we're good. And now I understand that the buildup of that moment was, earning my first entrepreneurial dollar. And that was the buildup. That was the moment. And I think I was expecting something bigger and grander, and it just wasn't there. And as a result, right, I got called into like this bigger pause, silence moment that I couldn't avoid. And right in that moment, I was like, okay, fast forward, like we're good, right? We did this. And there was so much more that I needed to discover. And had I skipped past that last month, oh, we just were in a different place. And I suppose that's going to be the rest of my life, right? Like ever experimenting and learning and growing into this new space, this new environment, this new self. So really, I think it was just committing and knowing that pausing does not mean a stop, right? The pause, play button are on the same button on your VCR. They're not separate buttons. You don't even have to move your finger. Like, you could just keep it placed right on there. Play goes with pause. It does not. It's not a stop pause button. It's a pause play button, right? And that should be life-giving to you if you're being called to pause and reflect and sit back and think, right? It does not mean you're stopping. Even though that is essentially what the world is going to tell you, it just means you're slowing down. You're smelling the roses. You're walking your kids to school. You're taking bike rides. You're being the town crazy, meditating by the bike trail. You're pausing so that you can play again. But so many times, we interpret that as either like spinning out of complete control, right? Or that this person has just kind of gone mad, which I don't know. That's up for debate. Who's really gone insane? Is it me? I don't know. Right? But I want you to be okay with that. I want you to be okay and, really gift yourself with that time, whatever that looks like for you. You can pause and still live your life. At some point, if you get to this place where you need to kind of reset, that pause may look longer than expected. But you can kind of pause in real life. And that looks like, right? That looks like still living your life, still going to work, still taking your kids, but like spending most of your time with self-development stuff, spending a lot of your time podcasting and thinking, and really committing to probably saying no to a lot of extra, to a lot of extra advancement, to a lot of movement. Like you're kind of just hanging out and seeing where life is going to take you, but really seeing where your curiosity takes you more than anything. And that's kind of what the pause gives you. It gives you this moment to just openly explore. And if you don't have the ability to kind of heighten that risk, right, and to like fully exit and commit to the pause, you really can allow yourself to move around freely in that space. But it just looks like taking the time and saying probably a lot more no's than you're used to. No, I can't take that next level job. No, I can't add that to my plate. No, I can't babysit this weekend. No, I can't go to that game. No. Oh, is that enough examples? Okay. Right? You may just be in a season of pause and no. Sorry, for some of you, that's going to be extremely hard. It was extremely hard for me. So, really, let's just start normalizing that. Let's start normalizing pausing. Let's be okay with people just taking a break, saying no, not doing the things, because on the other side of that, we can actually press play, and it doesn't always mean that we're spiraling to a stop, right? We're just paused. We're still moving. We're still doing good work. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.